Hi, I'm Bill Holcomb and welcome to this watercolor tutorial on how to paint a lighthouse in watercolor. This particular one is at Pigeon Point on the Californian coast. Here are the materials used in today's tutorial, and you can download my free sketch from the link in the description. I start from the top with a wash, a very light wash of yellow. Almost looks white. Then I go into the reddish wash, which is the Windsor yellow and some alizarin crimson. And I come down to the horizon. I'm avoiding the white areas of the lighthouse and the buildings and the top of the rocks there. Just come across the top. Using a mop size brush, say a number 20, you can come right across the very top of the lighthouse because that's going to be a bright red colour when we get there. So use that mop brush, then go into a number 10. This is a Utrecht number 10 brush that I'm using, and you can see a link for ordering those brushes and all the other materials. As you will have seen, this is Arches 300-pound rough paper and Winsor & Newton paints. There are links for all of these. Just being a little bit ambidextrous here and using the left hand to come into the side of the lighthouse. That side will be the light side, so the sun will be coming from the left, casting to the right. Then with the mop brush again, we lay in some blue, and this is cobalt blue, and you can leave little gaps here and there. It doesn't have to be one massive wash, continuous wash. Just leave little gaps. Makes it more interesting. Continue with that, and then once that's done, still wet in wet, we're using our 3/4 size brush to lay in some darker cloud shapes. I've mentioned in previous tutorials that the flat brush for things like clouds and seascapes, etc., for waves, makes it easier to control. So I've got a 3/4 size flat brush, and that's cobalt blue with some alizarin crimson, and just make your various cloud shapes with various gaps in between here and there from the paint wash that you laid down earlier. Come up to the lighthouse on purpose, and then on the other side of it continue that cloud shape all across. This will help emphasize even more the white of the lighthouse when we get to that stage of painting it. After this, we will be dropping down to a smaller flat brush. Here we go, for even more control, and bearing in mind that the closer we get to the horizon, the flatter the cloud shapes will be, more elongated, which is what you expect to be the position at the horizon level. And we will be mopping up the edges with the tissue to avoid creep back, and then drying with a hairdryer. And as you can see, as I always mention, the colours do dry much lighter. Then we're using a number 10 brush to lay in, first of all, a little wash of that very faint yellow, and then on top of that some of your blue wash, cobalt blue. And here and there you'll see we lay in darker versions to help us show the cloud formations in the sky reflecting in the water and casting shadows, etc. So variation, dropping in some of that alizarin crimson with the cobalt blue to show that variation, mixing it together, fusing it with the blue. So here comes that yellowy colour, which can be yellow ochre together with the Winsor yellow. Still using number 10 brush, pointed brush. Drop that in while still wet. Everything's still wet. Lots of wet and wet taking place here, all fusing together. Switch to a half-size flat brush for even more accuracy. Drop in those colours and give variation for the ocean. Then dry that off with a hairdryer. Now for the lighthouse, I started with a clear wash of water on the left side first, and then come right across. And you can use something like a number 4 brush at this stage. And then on the right hand side, which is the shadow side, we have a combination of light red and cobalt blue to give us a greyish colour, and we drop that in and it will slowly fuse in to the left hand side, which will be the light side. That helps us give a convincing situation where we have the sun from the left casting shadow to the right. That looks a little bit granulated at the moment, but once we dry that off, it will fuse in together and be convincing. So continue with that on different parts of the lighthouse. And when we get to other parts of the structure of the lighthouse, we'll be putting in a red capping, which can be Scarlet Lake. And then we'll be putting in various railings around the top of the lighthouse, parts of the structure. And that will be a black colour that I make up from my blue and my red, rather than black straight out tube. So here's a red capping that's taking place now. You can drop to a number 2 brush for accuracy, and also for the dark railings colours you can use that number 2 brush for your accuracy. Now we got the darker colour. And you'll have to study the photographs of the lighthouse to make sure that you accurately draw the structure and the different railings, etc. And then follow your pencil lines that you've drawn in as your guide. All these lighthouses have a similar structure, those constructed at this time. You can use this technique for various lighthouse paintings. Once we've completed the structure of the lighthouse with this dark colour using the number 2, we then go on to the properties at the bottom of the lighthouse, and using our combination of colours, our reds and our browns that we mix up. And you see there's a little tree as well there. There's some other structures involved and some poles, etc. for communication. And we're using a Winsor yellow on the top of the bank. You can vary that if you wish. The Winsor yellow could have some yellow ochre added if you wish. You can make your choice. So a very vibrant top section of the bank at first, and then whilst that is wet, we will drop in some green colour, which can be our permanent sap green, as I'm doing now, and let that fuse in together. And as it fuses, it looks more convincing. You can use a number 4 or number 6 brush at this stage to fuse those colours together. And once we've completed that, we'll get on proper to the various rocks and the lovely variation in colours that those rocks have. And there'll be various light sections, particularly catching your eye and contrasting with the dark section, so lots of good play of light and dark, which we want to achieve as much as possible in our paintings. So we have a combination of realism and impressionism. You'll mix up in your palette all these different colours that you're seeing me paint now from the materials that we mentioned at the beginning. Mix your combinations up and just study the rocks and the way the light is coming across, and then you can lay that down as accurately as possible, giving those lovely contrasts of light and dark, and use your wet in wet process to fuse colours together, make them convincing and realistic. And you will build that up as we do in transparent watercolours. Start with your lighter washes and go into darker ones, and then even darker still. Some of that is wet in wet. Other times it will be the paint has dried and you're laying down a darker colour on top. And sometimes you'll be using the side of the brush scraping technique to lay down some of those darker colours to give a nice broken variation to the subject matter. So just dropping in little rocks in the ocean here nearby. Use that mix of your blue and your red, and maybe a little umber mix as you wish. Now, most of the rocky area has been completed, and I'm now laying in some more definition with a smaller brush, using the side of the brush scraping technique here and there to drop in some nice variation in the rocks, also showing shadows and little crevices and so forth, rather than just one block of colour. This is a much more convincing approach. I'm now just demonstrating where you can do the lifting technique to lighten areas. Just a little wash of water on your brush, lay that down, and then use the tissue to dab and lift, and then you can lay in after that a lighter colour as I'm demonstrating on the rock surface. And some of these rocks have got a nice reddish colour to them. You can use the colour red that we've suggested or that you've chosen. Mix that in with a little bit of your blue to give a rusty sort of colour. And they'll be mainly on the light side of the rocks, the left side. And then once we've completed that, here and there, at the base of these little rocks, there'll be indication of lapping waves, little bits of water, froth coming up at the bottom, that we've left little white areas on purpose to reflect that. And then in a greyish colour, very light, we've indicated little suggestions of reflections and shadows. And we're getting near to this painting being completed. It is a more advanced, more detailed painting, which I appreciate, but please do remember to like and subscribe so that we can notify you whenever a new video is uploaded. And also make your comments and suggestions and refer your friends, because this will increase our viewing audience of our channel and give us some more airtime, and we appreciate that. And hope you've enjoyed that. Here's the finished painting. I think quite a dramatic one. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.